Hi, everyone. Welcome to the College to Calling Summit. My name is Miko Lau, and the reason why I put together this show is so I can help inspire, educate, and empower recent college graduates and people in their early 20s on how to rediscover themselves, find a calling, and to build a happy, successful, abundant life centered around what they love doing. And today, I'm really honored and privileged to have a very special guest here with us. Her name is Maria Felipe. Maria is an international speaker and the author of her best-selling book, Live Your Happy. And she has success early on in her life as an actress and model. But after having some success, she felt called inward and she studied to become a reverend at Pathways of Light, which is an accredited school inspired by a course in miracles. And today she bring her helpful, happy message all across the globe in churches and different venues. And today, I'm really happy to be able to have her on here and talk to us about her story, her journey, how she came to where she's at today. And Maria, with that all being said, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Miko. I'm so happy to be here. This is going to be awesome. It's going to be so awesome. I could already feel it. You're like introducing me, and I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be so good. I love the purpose of this summit. I love the purpose. I wish I had this when I was in my 20s. I would have saved myself so much suffering.
Yeah. And that's really why I'm super passionate about this show, is because I have a lot of friends in their 30s and their 40s, and they're just really not happy in their lifetime because they spent probably the last decades doing something that is not true to themselves or following a path that someone else has told them to live. So with that being said, I cannot wait to dive in now with this interview. Why don't we start off by taking our audience really back in time a little bit and share with us who Maria was back in her early 20s.
Woo! Who was Maria back in her early 20s? Well, the first word that comes up for me is discover. I was trying to discover myself at that time. Early on, like my late teens, very early 20s, I had a really bad depression, actually, that happened to me. I was kind of at a crossroads. I had already been modeling since I was 18. I was already doing television and commercials and things like that. But I felt this sense of depression, like a sadness, and kind of what my future looked like, right? Like what would be my purpose? Like, would I be an actress for a long time? Would I finish college? Would I get a degree? There was all these questions I was asking myself. And I remember that I started to doubt myself and I started to feel these feelings of sadness. And I remember asking my parents, because I had never felt that before. I had never felt that type of stress. So they said to me, well, what it is you're experiencing is depression. And I was like, what? What is that? And then they told me, and then I said, well, why don't they teach us at school and give us tools on how to deal with, this uncertainty? And so I was very surprised. And actually, around when I was 23 and I was in one of the biggest depressions of my life, the first one I had and the worst thing that's ever happened to me, because I was like debilitated. Had so much anxiety. And I remember that I had an audition for WWE, which is World Wrestling Federation. It's the wrestling company. It's huge.
Yeah.
And this job was to host the show in Spanish. It was called Los Super Astros. And they had interviews and auditions in New York. And I didn't go to that one because I lived in Miami at the time. But I think they saw maybe like 500 girls. And then I went to the audition in Miami, which they saw another 500 girls for that position. And I remember, Miko, I walked in so nervous and I was so not myself. And I don't even know what happened, but a week later, I heard I got the job.
Wow.
So I was like, how did that even happen? And I got this contract. So I was very young. I had, a big contract in television for Univision. I had signed on for maybe like 65 shows. So I was going to be busy touring all over the United States and doing this. So that's what was going on in my early 20s. And I was just trying to discover myself. I also had an amazing French boyfriend at the time. I'm never going to forget him, and his name was Franck. And He would cook me these amazing French dinners. And I was also still not happy, Miko. I had a great relationship. I had a great apartment in Miami. I had a TV show. And I thought I had finally found my calling, and I was a hot mess. I like to say just a hot mess. And I was, because I was looking for my completion and my happiness outside of myself. It's like my work defined me. My relationship defined me. All these aspects outside of myself would fill me, I thought, and complete me. What happens is that that wasn't the case. What it was causing me is anxiety, because I was on the show and I wasn't feeling secure about myself. I felt like my Spanish wasn't good enough. I felt I wasn't pretty enough. I was so thin and I had such an amazing body. I look back now and I'm like, I was hot. I was so fucking hot. I was so effing hot. And now, and at the time, it's funny because I didn't think so. I didn't think so. I remember that I got, out of 10,000 girls, I had the opportunity to be one of the top 10 for YM magazine, which is Young and Modern magazine. And they featured me. And I remember doing the photo shoot, and they flew me to New York and everything. And imagine, I'm a model. I've beat out 10,000 girls for this position, and I'm feeling I'm not pretty. I wasn't even smiling in the pictures. And I feel that when we're younger, there's so much to deal with. There's so much peer pressure. There's so much things about society, especially now. Especially now, I feel, because it's in our face with online. Like back then, I didn't have it in my face. It was all in my head. Now it's in your head and you see it all the time on things. So that was, and then when I started to dive deep into more of a spiritual practice, I found this metaphysical book called the Course in Miracles. The Course in Miracles is a teaching that's non-duality. It helps with understanding the way the mind works, which is the decision of fear or love, and depending what thoughts you're having in your mind and you're marinating within your mind and you're believing in and valuing, is going to give you your experience. It's all about taking responsibility. It's all about letting go of victimization. And I really liked it. A lot of teachers like Eckhart Tolle, Marianne Williamson, Dr. Wayne Dyer, even Oprah, and they actually talk about the Course in Miracles as well, and they quote it and everything. It's a phenomenon, seriously. So I was doing it for my early 20s and not practicing it much, but we'll talk about that later. But that's basically my 20s in a nutshell. I was a hot mess.
That was
a hot mess.
That's really powerful, though. Like a lot of the things that you just share is something that I really do see resonating in a lot of young people nowadays. Like you said, it's even worse today with all these comparisons happening on social media. And it sounds like you already have that amazing, successful life, a career path in acting, modeling at such a young age, but deep down inside you weren't feeling happy. And it's really important to me because I feel like a lot of us spend a lot of time chasing after the wrong things, chasing after the wrong success in our life. So now, knowing everything that you know, what would you say like the definition of success is? What is the one thing that people really at the end of the day is really looking for in everything that they do?
Well, the way I think about success is probably a little bit different than most people would think, just because my teachings are just very radical. And they all go from introspection. It's all going within and really realizing you have everything truly and you have nothing. It's really living from that space. And how do you do that when you don't have all that, right? But the whole point here is, and what you're asking me is, what's the meaning of success for me? And living the life I've lived, ultimately, success for me has been being able to maintain my peace and also know how my mind works so that I can be happy regardless or not if I'm successful. And I know that's a little crazy, but that's just my feeling. I feel that success is really the experience of joy and happiness and knowing that things outside don't define you. Now, you could be successful in the world. I'm not saying that. I think that's beautiful. We live in a life and we do want to achieve things. We have goals, we have desires, and that's so beautiful. But at the end of the day, Miko, we have to understand, and this is something that made me suffer a lot in my 20s, is that I allowed these things to define me. I allowed these things to really matter, and that they somehow like make me special or better. An actor, defined me, it defined me. Being a model defined me. My looks defined me. And I suffered so much because it was all outside stuff. It was all, if I was booking a commercial, I was happy, right? If I would, basically have a boyfriend, I was happy. So it was like everything was so conditional. Everything was so conditional. And the reason that we suffer so much is because ultimately we suffer because we wish things would be another way. Right. So if this was like this, then I would be happy. And if this relationship was working, then I would be happy. And then if I got the degree and I get the job right away, then I would be happy. And yes, it does give you a state of happiness, but you also have to understand that true happiness is the recognition that you have everything and you lack nothing, really, because the course teaches us that happiness is our inheritance and happiness is our function. So if that's the truth, if that is the truth, then we're always that. We're always love. We're always that. It's funny, Miko, because when my book first came out, I was asked on podcasts and on many social streams, media and stuff, and television shows, like, can you be happy all the time, 24/7, 7 days a week? Is that what you're saying? And my jaw dropped when I said, yeah, you can. And I was like, why would I even say that? Like, no. I'll take that back. I take it back. I couldn't take it back because all these things were live. So it was like, I couldn't take it back. And then I was like, okay, Maria, how are you going to get yourself out of this one? How are you going to get yourself out of this one? And, when I speak, when I always share, Miko, I come from a space of such trust and I come from a space of such authenticity. And I really allow spirit to move through me and just allow my true self to flourish as much as it can. And our true self is that part of ourself that's fearless. Our true self is that part of ourselves that really honors, that loves, that doesn't judge, that lets go of trying to manipulate, that lets go of trying to, make things happen. It's more of a trust of unfolding and grace. So I was in that space, and from that space came, yes, we could be happy 24/7, 7 days a week, and I'll tell you why. Because if our inheritance is happiness and our function is happiness, then what does that mean? It means that happiness is our birthright, right? So it means that we're born with it. It never goes away. Now, do we forget it? Yeah, we forget it. We believe in our problems. We believe, our homework is very real, right? You college students, you believe these tests are really real, and you get a lot of anxiety. And then what happens is that you're under that happy umbrella because that's where you reside. But then you move out of the happy umbrella and you believe your thoughts. You value your thoughts. You believe that they're happening, and you believe that, they're very real, which they are in a sense. Although the power to heal is within you, and the power to experience it is on you. So the Course of Miracles talks about that we're going to experience things in the world. We're going to have situations that are going to happen, but you have the power to experience them. You could experience them through the lens of love or through fear. So the reason that we are happy all the time, and that's the truth, and that's like the biggest message I want to convey, is because just because we are sad or we're depressed or we have anxiety doesn't mean that we're not happy. Because true happiness is what you are. You're just forgetting it. But when you remember again who you are in truth, and that this world doesn't define you, and yet you're so epically amazing, then you're like back on the happy train. And you're going, choo choo. And then life starts to get really fun.
Yeah, I love that so much. And this is an analogy that I heard from, I believe, some meditation practice I used to do. They said that happiness and our sense of well-being, it's like the blue sky. The blue sky is always there, even though some days there might be some clouds, it might be rainy, but in the behind the scene, the blue sky is always there. And that's really like the same as what you say. We can really feel happiness is who we are. And sometimes we may just forget about it. So now I want to ask you this question, Maria. Our listeners are listening to this right now. It's really difficult to believe that, I know, especially maybe if they're in the middle of depression right now, in the middle of anxiety. And I know that really building that happiness is like a muscle that we have to train, and it doesn't really happen overnight. So what are some steps that all of us can take starting today to remember that sense of happiness a little bit, one step at a time?
That's such a great question. And I feel that one of the things that's coming to me that's very helpful
Mhm.
is you got to feel it to heal it. You got to feel it to heal it.
Yeah.
And happiness doesn't mean like this cheerleader happiness, like, oh, I am love and everything's fine and trying to pretend you're happy. I'm not talking about pretending to be happy. I'm talking about a happiness that, of course, is innate within you and you have the power to spark it at any moment.
Mhm.
So, but sometimes it is hard. We are going to have conflicts. We are going to have, situations in our life that are going to bring us down. We're going to have, probably people in our lives passing away, making a transition, like all these super hard things. And I think the first thing is to recognize that there's nothing wrong here. There's really nothing wrong here. Having acceptance of the moment of what is, and knowing that you're going to do the best you can with the awareness you have. And maybe at that time you are going to be sad. Maybe at that time you are going to, feel these feelings, and you're gonna honor them, and you're gonna be like, this is okay. There's nothing wrong. I'm
Mhm.
just going to process this right now. And then what you do is that you start to process these feelings, and you begin to get really authentic about them. You
Mhm.
get really real about them. And what I do is that I write down what I call the big deals. So the big deals is everything in life that kind of takes away your peace, right? It could be anything from standing at Starbucks and somebody steps on your toe, and it really hurts, or it can be like you're having problems with the IRS, or your parents are telling you, you gotta go, you gotta go make a life for yourself, right? So big deals are any everyday things that take away your peace. And what I do is, and I tell people that I work with, my students, is to write these big deals down, like get them on paper. All these things that are clogging your mind. I call them thought clusters. Is to give them over, put them on a paper, and write them out.
Mhm.
And then the second step is something that's really powerful, and this comes with practice, just like we talked about. And what I help my students with is understanding that we have we're intuitive beings. And I'm sure you know what I mean, Miko. It's like we just know things.
Mhm.
You just know that this is right and this is not in alignment, right? So that we need to start to cultivate an epic relationship with our higher self, with our true self. And that is like going to the gym and working out. It's the same thing with
Mhm.
your higher self. So this big deals exercise is so big because you write down all these big deals and you sit with spirit, you sit with your true self the best way you can. And you ask, what is really true here? What really matters here? What is the truth about everything that I'm thinking in my mind? And what is really real? Like, and then what's going to happen is that you're going to get insights that are most probably the opposite of your big deals. It's like everything's okay, you're making this really matter, all these things. So then you switch the perception of these thoughts that you're having. And that's so key, Miko. Is like the reason that I suffered so much in my early 20s is because I didn't know how the heck my mind worked. And then,
Mhm.
well, when I found out how it worked, I wasn't willing to practice it. And that's something I want to get into later. And don't forget, for me to do that is talk about why is it that we don't practice, which is like the biggest thing. But that's what I do. And then what happens is some people are like, well, I don't know how to meditate, or I don't know how to write in a journal, or can I hear the voice? And the first thing is to know that the power to heal is within you, because that's just the way that it is. And you start writing, and maybe you write, I don't get anything, I'm so frustrated, or nothing's
Mhm.
coming out, or whatever it is. And just start to work with that voice and see what comes to you, because it's amazing. I've even had LAPD officers come do this work with me, and they start meditating, and they hear the voice, and they get all these insights, and they're like, oh my God, I had no idea. They don't even believe in God, and they're like, oh my God, I heard something, some bird was talking to me or whatever. So it's just amazing how I see every single person. And I see this in my workshops, Miko. Like when I'm doing my workshops, people will be like, well, what should I do about this or that? And I'll be like, close your eyes
Mhm.
and ask. And they close their eyes and they ask, and they receive, and they receive. Do you want to try it?
Yeah, let's try it.
It's
It'll be
really
fun.
easy. It's really easy.
Yeah.
It's so easy. So think
Okay.
about any question you may have, or any insight you need on anything right now in your life. It could be something
And
simple or whatever.
and we close our eyes, correct?
Yeah, but first tell
Okay.
me what decision kind of you would like to make, or like anything.
Mm,
It could be
it's
about.
a
Mhm.
A question about anything.
A question about anything. Yeah, it could be
Hmm.
insights like on your relationship. It could be insights on anything. It could be insights on the summit. It could be
Yeah, insights on the summit. Is this going to be a success?
good. I love that. Okay, so
Yeah.
close your eyes and let's take a deep breath
Okay.
here. And just trust and let go. And first, I want to acknowledge you for your spontaneity and your courage. It's so beautiful. And I invite you to put your hand on your heart. And the question is, and you ask it in the silence, you can say spirit, higher self, whatever word resonates with you, Miko, and ask, and you can say it out loud, actually say it out loud. What, will this summit be successful?
Will this summit be successful?
Good. And take a deep breath. And then tell me what you're receiving.
I just feel like a lot of love and something smiling at me. I feel like it's my inner being. Yeah, just happiness, and yeah, it's gonna be a huge success. Like, I know that Liza is going to be touched, and yeah, I feel good.
Beautiful.
I just feel fuzzy inside, and yeah.
Did you feel that, how like there's, and it comes right away? Did you see, like,
Yes.
I didn't tell you to go or go to the mountains of Bali. You're just, it's amazing. And I feel that we don't do this enough. We don't check in. It's like we're just running on automatic pilot. We are like zombies, and we're not tuning in. We're not asking questions. My one of my three favorite questions is, spirit, higher self, love, God, universe, guide me today, guide me what to think, guide my thoughts today, guide me what to say, guide me where to go, and every morning you wake up and you just let God, you just let your day be run by truth instead of you making it happen. And what happens is when you make it happen, and when you make things very real, and then what happens is you manipulate it, and then what happens is that you want to control it. And of course you have every right to be stressed and have anxiety if you're putting all that weight on yourself. And Live Your Happy, I have this book that's called, this chapter that's called You Are Not Alone. You Are Not Alone. And in this chapter, I talk about this higher self, this part of you that knows everything, that really, really knows everything. And when we tune into that, and we're willing to tune into that, big shifts happen. So one of the ways to really, help you with depression and help you with anxiety is to just get really honest about your feelings, write them down, and give them over, and then really start to change your thoughts about these thoughts, because the thoughts is what's giving you that sadness and depression. But no, it's not bad to feel sad. It's just part of being in, I like to say, this cuckoo world. This world is so cuckoo. Part of it.
I love that you said that we are not alone, and that's, even knowing that, it's a very calming, peaceful sense that all of us can feel, knowing that we are not doing this alone. And there's just so much out there that we just cannot see or perceive with our five physical senses. Like the energy waves, the sound waves, all of that, we cannot see it, but it exists. The same way how like our intuition knows something that we probably just cannot identify with our five physical senses. So it definitely, it's a powerful force. I know how it affects me as well in my personal life. So now I want to ask you this question, Maria. You mentioned about this a little bit earlier in your answers, but why don't you go into talking about how our thoughts really shape our lives? Like, why is it so important to know what's going on in our minds every day?
Well, it's vital. It's vital. Well, first, let's have clarity on this, which is, I spoke about it earlier, that our mind is controlled by two thought systems, and it's love or fear. And depending on what thoughts you are thinking, it's going to give you your experience. So this is a world of what? Cause and effect. Cause and effect. So where's the cause? Here. Not outside. So we're taught that the opposite, right? So actually we're causing our experience because we're the cause, and the projections outside. So the question is, well, I'll give you an analogy. So if you're at the movies, right, and you don't like the movie, and the movie is not, making and you don't like the actors in the movie, or you just don't like the movie, you don't like the personalities in the movie, you're not going to go to the screen and start to hit the screen and try to change the characters in the movie. And then some people are going to say you're going to walk out of the movie, but that's something that we can do too. But if we really, really want change, so if we really want change on that screen, we're going to go and change the film and the projector. Do you know? So it's like, I'm going to go back and I'm going to go to my mind. I'm going to change my thoughts so I can experience, I can perceive in correct vision, is what I like to say. So the thoughts are so important, because if our fearful mind, which is called, in this sense, it's the egoic mind, the limited self, the false self. Okay, so it's also Holy Spirit and ego, right? So we can also say those words, or love or fear, but the Course in Miracles, it talks about Holy Spirit and ego. And again, it doesn't matter the words. You can say Juanita and Pepito. I don't care. Just know that your mind is split. Your mind is split, and you decide. So this is so vital and so important, because if you wake up in the morning and you're having thoughts that are aligned to egoic thoughts and to fear, such as, oh my God, am I going to get the job? Or, oh my God, I have to better hurry up because I'm going to be late for work, or I'm not good enough, or my husband's going to leave me, or anything. Like, all these thoughts are going to give you that experience. And you need to acknowledge them. It's not like you're going to be like, oh, they're not true. It's just like, wow, how are these thoughts making me feel? These thoughts are making me feel limited. These thoughts are making me feel sad. So I don't want to feel this way, because your desire is, you want to really feel good. You want to have peace in your day. So what you do is that you own those thoughts, and then you give them over. You say, Spirit, I'm not feeling good right now. I'm trying to do this by myself, and I'm trying to manipulate it. I'm trying to make happen. Let me see this another way. And the true miracle is a change of perception from fear to love. So when something doesn't bother you anymore, when you've taken away the stress off things, that's when you're having a miraculous experience. Because in that moment, you have totally changed the way that you feel, right? It's like, it's radical. And that's really what true forgiveness is. True forgiveness is that sense of knowing that you can never really mess it up, and that everything's always working for you. So the thoughts are so important, because like for instance, I don't feel that heaven and hell is really someplace you go to. I feel that heaven and hell is right here, right now. And how many times have you felt you're in hell? How many times have you felt you're in heaven too, right? So whatever thoughts you're thinking are going to send you straight to hell or straight to heaven. And every thought is going to help you to either separate or unite. Because every time that you're judging, anytime that you're believing that something outside of you is hurting you, is attacking you, anytime you're not having responsibility, anytime that you are playing the victim, you are separating. Anytime that you're aligned to your truth and know that you're whole and holy, and that you can never really be hurt, and that everything is just a call for love or love, then you are in unity. So every moment we're either going to sleep to our truth, or we're remembering our truth. And it happens every single moment, the moment within the moment, the second within the second.
Yeah, I love how you put into perspective how everything really happens in this moment, right here and right now. It's a very duality, very two opposites. It's either fearful thoughts or love-based thoughts. It's very clear contrast that we always have a choice to decide which direction we are going to head towards. So let's shift gear a little bit, Maria. I know our listeners are people who just came out of college, and I feel like we've been on this hamster wheel of constantly finish the finals, get the good grades so we can graduate, and then we continue on without taking a break to really get to know ourselves. And our focus is to find a job, pay off the student loans, decide what we are going to do next. And we don't really have that opportunity to sit down and just pause. But how do we navigate between the priorities, the urgency of finding a job, to really taking the time for ourselves and do all the practice that we just discussed earlier on during this interview?
Well, first things first, and this is the biggest word, and this is like the biggest key to our happiness, is trust. And trust is huge. And I'm not talking about worldly trust. Worldly trust is old trust. New trust is the trust that you know that everything's working out for your higher good and everything's always working for you, even if it appears it's not. And knowing that there's an individualized curriculum for each of us to experience, and we are going to experience certain jobs, we're going to experience certain relationships that are going to help us awaken more to our true self. So you need to look at the bigger picture here, because we have a narrow picture of like, this is just a job, this is just like what I have to do because society has taught me. But no, there's a lot more here. There's a lot of ways that you can evolve. So for me, it's trust is a very big thing. And what has helped me is not making it matter too much. You know, I feel that we really put a lot of pressure on ourselves. Like, this is such a big deal and this matters so much. And that when I let go of like, this is, I'm not going to die. You know, it's not like do or die. You just feel so much better. And the things just happen in such an easy way versus like, you feel like you pushing, you feel like you manipulating, you feel like you worrying about it is going to get you the results, but it's the opposite. You see, it's an ego trick, you see, and I talk about that in my book, is like the ego tricks. You know, the ego tricks is that I should have, I could have, I wish I would have done it better, you know, or, you know, you look for your happiness outside is another ego trick, or judgments is an ego trick. So the truth is that your desire is to get the job. Right. The truth is that your desire is to get your diploma. Right. Your desire is to have the job that you love. Right. So all these things are good desires. You know, all these things are in alignment. Now, the thing is, you need to not have an attachment to it. You have to let go of the attachment to it. It's more like, if this is for me, this will flow. This will work. And you know what? If I don't get the job, that's okay. You know, it's that lightness, it's that gentleness that we need to cultivate. And this is something that I didn't have in my 20s, Miko. And that's why I say it so sincerely, because I suffered so much when I would not get that acting job. You know, I suffered so much when I felt in competition. I suffered a lot when I was, you know, going to college and I couldn't finish because I was like touring and doing all these shows. And I just went through so much stuff. And I always suffered because I needed that to happen. It was like, I needed whatever my desire was, it needed to happen. And sometimes it didn't happen, but then something much better would open up. So the goal here is always peace first. Always peace. It's like before you walk into the job interview, it's not, I want the job. Yeah, you acknowledge that you want it, but the truth is you want peace. You want peace first. Why? Because regardless if you get the job or not, you're peaceful. Right? Let's say you're going to get your new apartment and you've put, you know, your application in. Instead of like, I need this apartment, it's more of, no, I want peace. I want peace. And I want the best apartment for me. Why? Because if you feel, and you're like, you want the apartment, you don't know where you're saving yourself from. Maybe that apartment that you think you want, or that job that you think you want, might make you miserable. You don't know. So you never know what unconsciously you're trying to save yourself from. And all the times I've worried, when I am worrying, I've asked, and it's so funny because Spirit always tells me the same thing. It's like a broken record the past 3 months whenever I come with a problem. And it's always the same thing. Maria, you're making this matter too much. It's always the same. You're making this matter too much. Does that make sense? It's like, we just put all of our energy in like this obsession with, this is so important and this is going to save me, or this is going to complete me. And the truth is that you're already whole. You're already holy. You already have it all. All these things in form are just extensions of your love, are extensions of your truth, are extensions of what's going to serve you best, so you can really be your highest self. You know, all these things are going to complement that. It's funny because in my book, I say don't count that this book will make you happy. You know, I say it in the beginning, in the introduction. It's a big thing to say because, you know, I'm an author. I want to sell the book, and the book is called Live Your Happy. And I'm telling you, it's not going to make you happy. And the point is that because if I tell you that this book will make you happy, if I tell you that taking this course will make you happy, or whatever it is, I'm taking away your power, because the truth is, like we talked about at the beginning, happiness is what you are. So the book will complement you and will help you to develop these skills and practices. But ultimately, I can't give it to you what you already have. I can give to you what you already have. So that is so, so, so powerful. So when you start to let go that you being a student defines you, when you let go that your position defines you, you start to have more fun. For instance, people ask me, do you get, nervous when you speak? And I've spoken in small audiences. I've spoken to hundreds of people. And I've never got nervous. And I think it's because I don't make it matter. I just show up and I have fun, and it's not about Maria, me, the separated self, trying to be perfect or look pretty or speak, perfect English, with my accent. It's like, no, it's just, I'm showing up, I'm following my excitement, and this doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. I'm just sharing. I'm just serving. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
we need to stop making things matter. Maybe that's what this interview could be called. Stop the madness. Stop making it matter so much.
But that was really, really powerful. Oh my goodness. Because I see this in so many of my friends, even if they're still in college today, they make their grades, their GPA, the number one thing in their life. And they just slowly forgot who they truly are, and they lost their identity. And I really believe that's like one of the number one reasons why people fall into depression, whether in college, after college, because they just lost the who they really are in the chase after things that are outside of them. So now this leads to the next question, Maria. I want you to go more in depth about your experience when you felt called inward to completely change your career path. What was that experience like for you, and what was the defining moment that you realized, okay, this is who Maria really is? What was that like for you?
Wow, that's such a beautiful question. And just thinking about it makes me want to cry, because it was such a beautiful time, and a hard time too, because I had to make that transition. I suffered a lot as an actor. I suffered a lot in my career because I was constantly comparing myself and in competition. And I really put a lot of weight on if I would get a job or not. It would define me, and just a very lonely road. And I never understood why was it that I had this void in my heart. So what happened was, and I share this in my book as well, in 2009, I became a divorce statistic, and I got divorced from my first husband. Mm-hmm. And I remember that I was such at a loss, and this could be, anybody could identify with this. It could be anything, just an end of a relationship that we're just, heartbroken. I called the person that married us, and she said to me, Maria, why don't you go to Pathways of Light? It's a ministerial program based on the Course in Miracles, which you love, to become a minister. And I said, a minister? I don't want to be a minister. I'm an actor. How can I even do that? And she says, well, don't go to be a minister. Why don't you go to just learn the Course better and to heal? It's like your psychologist. Instead of going to a psychiatrist or psychologist, why don't you this is your psychology while you mourn this loss of a marriage. So that got me intrigued. It's not like I wanted to be a minister or speaker. What I wanted is I wanted to heal. So I went to ministerial program, and it really took me on a journey of a lot of meditation, a program that I could do in 1 year. I did it in 3 years because I was so resistant. And I just dove deep into the questions. They send you these binders, and I just really, really immersed myself in them. And something started to happen. I started to feel, and it was a very, very, very easy, graceful way. I started to share my experiences on a blog. It started on a blog of how I was dealing with my coconut. That's what I called it, coconut. It's a cocoa and the nut, right? And if I'm thinking cocoa thoughts, it's good. And then when I'm experiencing the nut, it's very nutty, right? So it's coconut. So that's how, if you Google something about coconut blog or something, I'm sure you'll find it. It's still probably out there somewhere. So that's how I started. I started to tell people how I would deal with my mind, my insecurities, while I was at my auditions. So that's how it started. And then I started to do YouTube videos, and my YouTube channel started a long time ago. It's called Maria Coconut TV, actually, because of the coconut thing. Now it's called Live Your Happy TV, but originally it started as Maria Coconut TV. And I started to share. And then from there, I started to have organizations ask me to speak on for the Course in Miracles. And then before I became a reverend, Unity of Burbank, which is here, asked me if I could speak at the church. And I'm like, but I haven't even been ordained yet. They're like, no, but try it. And I got up there, Miko, and I just share from my heart. It was called, It's Your Divine Right. That's what was the talk was called. And this was back in 2009. And I remember that people were crying, people were laughing. And I was like, oh my God, my career as an actor and television host was preparing me to be a speaker, because I'm such a good speaker. Not for nothing. I stand there, I know what to say, everything just comes to me, and I feel I'm at home. And when I was called to be a speaker, I said to myself, this is what I said to myself, and you could say to yourself with any job. I said, this is going to be fun. I suffered so much as an actor. I'm not going to bring that into my experience as a speaker. I'm going to have fun with it, and I'm not going to make it matter. Like, I'm just going to go with it. And that's how it started. And then I started to get more opportunities. Then I ended up getting the book deal, which gave me more of like a calling card to do more things. And it came to me, and you know why it became successful so quickly is because I didn't put so much weight on it. I didn't make it matter so much. It's not like, oh my God, I'm an author or I'm a speaker. And it was more of it came from such a space of purity. And the desire and the focus was, I'm just going to serve. I'm just going to serve. I'm just going to serve. I'm just going to show up. I'm just going to share. And I'm not going to go into I'm not worthy. Oh my God, what's wrong with me? I'm not speaking correctly. I don't have the right outfit on, whatever, so that's what happened. That's how the calling came. It was very obvious when I started to get opportunities to speak, like in Greece. I started to get opportunities to go to London.
Wow.
My book just got translated in Japanese and in Spanish. So I feel that the reason that I love my career right now so much, and I'm so passionate about it, is because I trust, and I don't have an investment in it that it defines me, if that makes sense.
Wow. And you have fun. You have so much fun.
How? Yeah. And I'm not going to say, listen, Miko, I have my days. I have my caca days, like I like to say, which is shit, by the way. I have those days, and that's okay too. It's part of the growth process. It's part of being in this world of duality. But at least I have tools to help me. I have the tools that I use, and really practicing what my teachings are and what I've learned with the course implementing them has been instrumental.
Yeah, and I can totally see how not making something so important and taking that weight off your shoulders and just having fun, it's a whole different energy that you come across to people, as opposed to really stressed out, trying to make this work and trying to be a perfectionist at what you do. It's a whole different energy. And I feel it on this episode here. And I bet our listeners are loving this as well. So Maria, I could talk to you all day. You're just so fun to talk to. But in respect of your time, I have only a couple last questions to ask you. I know you said you want to talk about this earlier. So why do we not follow through with action, even though we know specific things that we need to do to make our lives better? Why don't we take the action?
Well, the reason is that we're not honest. We're not authentic. We're not honest with ourselves. We say we want to change, but not really. We say we want to heal. We want this, we want that, but not really. And what the course says is all we need is a little bit of willingness, and miracles happen. In my book, I say we need big willingness, big kahuna, big, huge willingness. I feel that we want to change, but we still want to compromise and make exceptions. We don't want to be like, I am love, and then just period. It's I am love, but I'm going to look for my love outside of myself. Or I am abundance, and I'm going to believe that my abundance is not good because I don't have money in my account. So you need to be in alignment and live from that space of truth. So it's like you wake up in the morning and you live a life of being responsible and knowing you're not a victim of the world. You're responsible for your thoughts. You're responsible about your experience. You walk around practicing true forgiveness, which is recognizing that everything is love and a call for love. And you do your meditation practices. You understand and start living from that space that things outside of you don't define you. You're a whole, perfect, and complete, and not making any more exceptions or compromises. It's like, you know what? I'm going to immerse in this at max capacity as best as I can. And that's going to look different every day. But I feel that that's why we don't follow through, is because we're not honest with ourselves that we truly don't want to change. We still have an attachment to the suffering. It's very unconscious, but we love being victims, and we love, and we get off suffering. So we need to start to realize, you know what, this game of suffering, this story that I've made up that I need to suffer and that suffering is normal, I need to change that. And that's what I'm doing with my work. It's like I'm reminding people that happiness is your inheritance and happiness is your function. I'm also saying that you can experience that and know that 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Because if we've been ruled by a society that tells us the opposite, which is that fear is normal, having depression is normal, having problems is normal, I say, well, why don't we start to play opposite day and know that easy is normal, that you're filled with grace, that the possibility of having perfect health, the possibility of, it's easy to get that job. You don't need to struggle. It's easy to get that score. We're just taught these limiting things. So the time has come to do a switch. Mm-hmm. And that takes big willingness. That takes huge willingness, and you need to want to change. You got to take out that but, and you got to put your finger in your mouth and go, I am love. That's it. Stop the madness.
Oh, that is so good. And it might be difficult for some of the people out there to hear this, but it's really about being honest with ourselves and really making that decision, like, this is it. There's no other excuses or compromise. Wow. So
it's huge. I love you say that, Miko. It's so big. And I told you from the beginning, this is very radical, but it's the way I teach, and it works. It has its effects because I've experienced them. So
yeah, and we need radical change nowadays.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm happy that you're super honest and really speaking your truth, and that's something that people need to hear, even though they might not like it. So last question, Maria, knowing everything that you know now, with all the success that you have, doing the work that you do today, if you could go back in time and talk to 20-something-year-old version of yourself and say something to her, what would you say?
Well, I would say the first thing is what you're believing is not true about yourself. The concerns that you have aren't true. This apparent competition that you experience in your world with your career and the lack of confidence is not true. You're so loved. And also, you have it all. You feel like this modeling job is going to complete you, or this show, is going to make it. It's going to define your success. And you're wasting a lot of energy and time, which is okay. But I want to tell you, there is another way. There is another way. And I love you. And I feel that you did the best you could with the awareness you had at the moment. And I'm grateful for the journey you chose. I love you.
Oh, wow, that was really touching. I felt it. It felt like you were talking to me, and probably lots of our listeners are resonating with that message as well. And I just want to take this moment, Maria, to acknowledge you and all the amazing work that you're doing today to inspire people and to help you remember that happiness is something that we already have access to inside of us 24/7. And I'm really blessed to have people like you to come on the show, because if we could really shortcut that learning curve, that journey for us to get to the happy life that we all so truly deserve and want for ourselves, without having to spend decades of our life doing something that only brings us depression, anxiety. If we can do that, even with this interview, that would mean everything to me, to be able to touch the lives of so many young people out there. So Maria, how can our listeners stay connected with you after this interview?
Well, they can stay connected with me. We're going to give a free gift, and it actually has to do with the big deals. So I recorded this great meditation that you write down all your big deals, and then I walk you through the process of giving them over and receiving. It's super powerful. It's about 20 minutes. So when you get the link, you can go ahead and click on there, and then you put your email, and you will automatically go to my email list of where I send an inspirational email once a month, something about my life, something I'm going through, how I'm getting over it. It's very beautiful, very personal, very touching. And then also, I have over 200 videos on YouTube with different themes of love, of trust, all these things we've talked about today, but in a more deep conversation. It could be maybe a talk I gave at Unity that's up there, or it could be an interview I've had, or maybe just a blog I'm doing. So that is called Maria Coconut TV, is how you find me on YouTube. And feel free to subscribe and to watch the videos there. They're free. They're so helpful. And people have gotten so much out of that. On Instagram, my handle's REV, which is Rev, because I'm a Reverend, Rev Maria Felipe. That's MARIFELIPE. And on Facebook, you could find me also as Maria Felipe. But I would love to connect with you all. If you have any questions, you can message me. I hope that this interview has served you. Here is Live You're Happy. It's so colorful. Look, I kind of dressed up for it. And I actually recorded it on audio. So if you want to get it as an Audible, it's available on Amazon as well as iTunes. And a lot of people like it. I recorded it myself. And, I used to do commercials. So I'm pretty funny when I was recording it. And you can get it on Amazon, and you can also, if you go to my website, which we'll give you guys a link to, and you get the book on Amazon, and you just put the receipt number, you get access to a powerful talk I gave in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
It gives you 7 steps to forgiveness. It's really powerful. So
awesome. Great. So that was a lot of amazing resources that Maria just offered us. So I'll include all the links, including the free gift, the free meditation guide that Maria is offering, inside of the same email that this interview went out to. So make sure you go back to that email and get your hands on all the amazing resources that Maria has. And also reply back to this email and let me know what was your biggest takeaway from this interview and what you got out of this. And I cannot wait to hear from you. And thank you so much for tuning in today. And make sure you come back to watch the next interview. And thank you, Maria. It was nice talking to you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Miko. You brought out the best in me.
Bye.
Bye.